What is up, guys? It's Verns back here again with another Supercoach video. This time it is the round 9 review. Look, the week wasn't great. Don't think it was terrible. We put out a 23-25, went up 3.5k ranks to 48,600-ish. Look, I mean, we didn't run sweet, so I knew we were running a donut. I knew it would be a little bit lackluster. Oh my, there's been some very, very triggering things this week. Whew, where I don't even want to talk about it. Just score-wise for players that have moved out that have then just smashed it every time. Very frustrating in that retrospect. Now, I did actually go to the Pies game yesterday, so that was sick. My cousins were over from WA. Unfortunately, we had the funeral for my grandma on Friday, but it meant that my cousins were over. And they wanted to go to a Pies game, so we did do that. They did say it was pretty funny, though, because usually when they go to a game over there, it's just blue and yellow, completely one-sided, and then they come to the Pies game over here against West Coast, and it's the exact opposite, black and white, completely one-sided. They did kind of want a interstate match. That would have been, you know, something that they're not used to, I guess, outside of Freo and West Coast. They were like Carlton Collingwood last week would have been absolutely sick. Yes, it would have, because they won by a goal. But unfortunately, you know, we just kind of ran over them. But yeah, they get to watch a team that they can watch most weeks anyway, unfortunately. But it was good to see them. I actually hadn't seen I'd seen my uncle when my granddad passed away a few months back, but my cousins hadn't come over, and I hadn't seen them in like 8 years, so it was really good to see them. Yeah, it was nice. So we'll jump into the team, see how. And we're back as usual. I didn't reverse my trades. I even thought about it before the video. Oh, I need to go reverse those. Did I go and reverse those? No, I did not go and reverse those, but I did this time. So I'm nice and zoomed in. We can see how the team's looking. I actually lost rookie roulette because I ran Jones on field over Combin. Very, very frustrating in this retrospect too. I was in my cash league. It was very close. I had McGovern, Crouch, Dunkley, versing Laird and Sullivan from Collingwood. Obviously, McGovern tearing it up by halftime, like 80 points at halftime, gets injured and goes off the ground. Literally paid 50% of the game. Because the game was done in the first quarter, he got like 30 points of scaling and ended up on this 114, so pretty happy in that sense, but unfortunate in the sense that he probably should have gone for like a 160 if he stayed on the park, but no, he had to go for a stupid specky where he didn't even get off the ground. He just went horizontal and went bang and hurt himself, and I was like, bruh, why? And then Sullivan dropped to 75 and he kept it close, you know, only really like a 40-point difference there. So because of that, then we needed Dunkley and Crouch to really outscore Laird, and unfortunately they just didn't. I mean, them putting together 200 points just wasn't enough. I think I need like 250-ish to basically... So, I needed to outscore Laird by about 130. So as long as one of them matched Laird and one of them dropped to 130, it was fine, but nah, Dunkley ended up with a poor score, Crouch poor score. A bit frustrating in that aspect. So obviously the trades last week, we brought in Dunkley, we brought in Jones. I messed up putting Jones on field over Combin and lost 60 points there, where once again in this cash league, they ran Combin over Jones. Big difference maker considering we lost by 40 points. Dunkley... last week it was basically Sarong versus Green. I decided to go for Green. Very punishing last week, but now another 40 points on top of that just because Sarong went massive again. And I could have gone for Sarong this week, but chose to go Dunkley trying to make a pod play. I do think it'll be fine because I think Sarong will get tagged this week from Windhager, and I do think that Dunkley should smash Richmond and then Hawthorn and probably make up that difference. But just a bit frustrating that we lost an important cash league matchup. Now, I know we don't really care about that. We play for overall, but while playing for overall, we do try and win those cash leagues, so a bit unfortunate there. But we will just start from the top. So Ryan 111, we did VC him. I was originally Butters that I was very hot on, as you guys would know from the last video. But once we realized Sweet was not playing, I was like, man, if they're bringing in their third string ruckman and Vizentini, if he doesn't have a ruck to hit down to him, it's probably going to really hurt. Obviously, Geelong sub out Stanley though, and apparently it's just doesn't really matter. And Butters ends up being unbelievable. And I guess previously, like, some of these Port ruckmen haven't really been very good anyway, so... Has Butter really ever had a ruckman hitting down to him? But yeah, ended up deciding to go for Ryan, who looked like a pretty poor pick originally. But then Ryan managed to bring it back in that fourth quarter. I think he has 60 points, and he managed to get to 111, so put like 51 points down. So yeah, Ryan managed to get to this 111, which I know a lot of non-owners are pretty unhappy with. I'm sure a lot of people that brought him in were very happy with, considering how much they paid for him and how underperforming he was. But I mean, Sydney didn't really kick any behind, so he didn't get many kick-ins. And then yeah, last quarter, 13 kicks. One of them was a behind where he didn't play on, so really 12 kicks. I think like 5 marks, and yeah, just tore it up in a game where there was no scaling in the back end. I mean, if he has a quarter like that in the first quarter, and the scaling's in that quarter, it's an 80 to 90 point quarter. But yeah, insane from that man. So good. Dacos obviously 147. Great captaincy if anyone threw it on. I think a lot of people looking at Dacos though would have done the Bont into Dacos play. So unless you did just put it on somebody else and failed that, maybe you put it on an English, maybe you put it on a Ryan, and then you failed that and decided to roll the dice with Dacos over Bont, then like congrats there. But yeah, I think a lot of people would have got stuck with just taking the Bont VC, so not too unhappy with that. Martin and unders game, 30 touches, didn't kick it well. You know what, he's been fine, so don't worry about it. McGovern, super frustrating. In our team, I think he's been averaging about 100 points for us. This was one of those outlier games where a pod was going to go massive and really make a difference for us, and it just didn't happen because he played 50% of it. So really frustrating there in that sense, but not too detrimental. And if it means he's going to play next week because he went off and got himself looked at, yeah, it would have been great if he didn't do it. Then it's not too bad. It's Sunday, so he has 7 days to hopefully feel better about it. The other thing with when you're at the game as well is that you don't know, like, obviously I'm not hearing the commentating, I don't know exactly what's happening. I didn't even realize McGovern was off for like ages sort of thing. Didn't realize we ended up with so many injuries early on. I was like, what the hell happened there? Holmes 94, once again very frustrating. Holmes had 91 at 3/4 time. This was ramping up for another 120 looking game, and it just didn't get there. Also another thing that once again it seems to happen every week now, close game, Geelong need to get it forward. It ends up with Holmes in traffic, and he just puts it on the boot trying to get 40 meters of distance, and it just gets intercepted. And with, once again, it being a crunch moment, he was 101 at that stage, and that got intercepted, and he ended up finishing on a 94. Now, obviously, because the game was the back end of the game, scaling would have meant they lost points anyway, but that clanger was probably worth at least, you'd think at least 5, but yeah, very frustrating in that aspect as well, that once again he's so close to being great and then he's just not quite there. So a bit frustrating there, but I've still got faith in my boy Closey. Yep, awesome 105, great, so glad we have you. Yeah, Bont we already sort of talked about, smashed Richmond. Dunk sort of talked about, just had an unders game, close game against Adelaide, good shit. Butters, we knew he'd be good. We thought without a ruckman he might not be as good as we thought, but he did end up being quite good. And Dawson, 142, absolutely massive. And anyone that traded him in last week would have felt a bit unders with his score, but that 142 justifies it. For me, I've had him for 3 weeks, so if we do click on him, we get to see what his 3 weeks in our team has been. And his 3-round average, 121. So we paid 530k for this man. He's averaged 121 in our team. Insane. Dacos we paid what, 580 for him, and he's averaged 141 in our team because we brought them in the same week with a boost. So insane from those 2 pickups. Steele 122, very happy with that, very glad we held him. Crouch 112, very good. Green 116, at least he bounced back, and Wilson good on field. So I mean, we didn't put Clark on field. I don't think he ever would. We tanked a donut here, and English unfortunately had a bit of an unders game. But look, at least we didn't captain him or something. Heaney, decent game. McRae, he just keeps chugging along at this. Not quite top 6 premium. Maybe a best case scenario, sort of around the 10 mark. Bit frustrating, but it is what it is. Reed, in my opinion, is going to be a hold. I think, look, these were 2 down games, which suck, but if we look at his fixture past Melbourne, he is coming into some very easy opponents. Yes, Adelaide pretty restrictive too, so he's got 2 decently hard games here, but that doesn't mean he can't perform. And then he's got St Kilda as a weak midfield, and North, who also kind of suck. So I think he could hopefully have some decent games against Melbourne, Adelaide. Hopefully he can up this to maybe 70-80 range on his scoring, and then he could have 2 monster ones here and really bounce back before he's bye. So yeah, I want to be keeping him as that F7 player. So I'm not moving him on at this stage. It doesn't matter if he goes down 40k, because I think 1, he'll make it back, and I think 2, he'll be good enough to keep, so it doesn't matter. All right. Darcy, awesome score. Very obvious field there. Sexton got back in the team, which we were so happy for. As a holder, this is kind of the day we were praying for, and he performed well. They got a good win. He could have another position and get another price rise, which is insane. The 82 is also really good for that break even. We saw that break even go to -2, which is awesome. He's still at the 47 in the cycle for a bit, but if he can maybe get a few games together here, yeah, he could get us some serious cash and be very nice to be able to juice out. I mean, that's another 50k there, another 90k on him that others didn't. Jones, yeah, very unfortunate. He was the worst forward to field, and we fielded him, which is unfortunate. I mean, the next worst, I mean, technically Reed, but I was always going to field him, so Garcia out of the rookie option. So, I mean, technically I had to bench 2 of them. I got 1 of them correct and 1 of them wrong with the second best scorer, unfortunately, which I did not see coming in. Combin's kind of restarted this cash gen too, where I talked about Combin being kind of a failed pick. He came in, made us 70k, wasn't really good enough. We messed up. But then this week, kind of rectified it by getting 20k and a really good on-field scoring. Problem was he wasn't on field for us, so that fucking hurts. But yeah, now he's made 90k. His break-even's low again. He could actually turn it around and no longer be a failed pick and actually become a decent pick. So I really hope he can. Saying that though, when I look at my players, I've got to move players on, and he's kind of the guy that like has the break even that wants to be moved on. So it's a bit unfortunate in that retrospect. So that's over the team nice and quickly. As we can see, 42k in the bank. Now, some things I do want to go over here. Things that were tilting. Ruck line. Okay. We had, like, if you ended up going to Meek, worked out very well. Meek ended up being insane. Definitely one I considered and then decided against it. Wrong decision there when I could have gone Grundy the Meek on his bye. If you started Cherry, really good. Now, if you started Grundy and you held him this whole time, you got this 160, you got this 140 in his last 3 weeks, because I've missed his last 3 weeks because I traded him. Then Grundy's been a good ruck. Instead, we jumped on the ruck merry-go-round. We got off Grundy, missed 2 massive scores, got on Marshall, got 2 tiny scores. So when we got these 2 tiny scores from Marshall and missed 2 good scores from Grundy, 200 points down the drain. What happened then? We then moved on Marshall, who obviously we brought Sweet in. He outscored Sweet by 30, and then Sweet didn't play and he scored a 160. 200 points down the drain then. Back-to-back ruck trades that in 2 weeks have cost us 200 points apiece. That is frustrating, very frustrating, and I kind of just want to fix this lineup. Like, with my trades right now, Libba, we just don't know, and I could trade Libba and basically get anyone I want. And I could go Libba down to Grundy and just fix up this line and be like, I'm not dicking around with it anymore because it's just been a nightmare. But I don't think that's correct. I think Sweet will be back. I think Sweet will be scoring a lot better than some of these other rookies. Saying that, these forward rookies haven't been bad. So I kind of want to keep Sweet on field and maybe move out some more speculative rookies. So I don't think that's the play. I could easily bring in Sarong, 660k, but I do think Windy will tag him this week, so probably a bit of a down game. At least that's what I'm kind of hoping, so I think I'll avoid that. There was definitely some players that jumped up on the radar. So we had Hein jump up on the radar with a really big game. I did talk to some of the S&M boys though. Joe from the Center Bounce gave me his opinion. I will talk to Joshy tomorrow night about it. But obviously he's been a sub in a lot of these games, but he played very well against GWS and he ended up scoring very well as well. And I thought, man, if he's actually got this position back, he's also a forward line player for 220k. This could be insane, but as Joe said, it was just GWS's lineup. They needed the extra small. Ridley's only 1 or 2 weeks away. He's not going to have that position. He'll probably end up back as a sub. Not worth the money. So one that I was interested in, but I will jump away from. The other one being Fisher, obviously dropped to 140 and a 95. The only thing that scares me with Fisher is Fisher's at basically 400k. If you bring him in, he has to be a keeper. Now, the scary thing with Fisher is what happens in 2 weeks when Clarko decides, you know what, Sheasel, you up on the ball. It's not working. You're just not ready for it, or it's just not working. We're going to put you back behind the ball, and all of a sudden he starts eating into Fisher again, and Fisher drops down to this 70 average guy. And yeah, maybe you can get 100k out of him before then, but if you're paying that money, you really do want to keep her. And so I'm a little bit scared to go towards Fisher. who I think could spud it up. I mean, if he works out, he's going to be a dynamite pick. But one I don't think I'll go for. I say think because there's still a chance. He's still been very good in these last couple of weeks. And then the final one that popped up was Witherden, who dropped a 140, and I was like, damn, that man's, he's 400k, is he a pick? I actually wanted to go check him out on DFS and see his heat maps. I might actually just go do that now real quickly. DFS. Okay, couldn't find it because I am terrible at using that, but I think Witherden did play on a wing a bit, but then it looked like he rotated into defense when McGovern went down, so I think it might be one of those things that maybe if McGovern's out of the team, Witherden's fine, but yeah, probably not a roller coaster I want to ride on anyway. But we will just jump to players here real quick to take a look at it this way. Obviously, if you... like, this is what's hurting right here. Max Gaunt's wrong. Neither of them in our team. 130 average. Insane. I do like looking at 3-round average. See who's hot. Wines. We started him, but he got hot at the wrong time. Laird bounced back. Oh, I know Josh is going to be upset with that because he traded Laird, I'm pretty sure, like 3 weeks ago, and he's bounced back with 120 average. Now, Pendles is actually a huge shout to anyone that was good enough to get on Pendles, but Pendles did get injured and subbed off on a 12, and because of that, Pendles, a 23. So because of this, he ended up less than 400k, 390k. For Scott Pendlebury, like, that would have been a pretty good pick. Even if he was just scoring 105, like, that's like almost 150k underpriced. Like, that's crazy. But the point, he's gone and added a 106 and 147 on top of that. Like, insane. Like, you can't go him now because of him being 470k, but you could have done a sneaky one when he was at 390k and maybe got some good bang for your buck there. Just wanted to shout that out. Treloar's actually been really good as well, and with Libra out, he could be good. But he has been a little bit of a yo-yo with some of his scores where they've been a bit unders. Not even unders, actually. He hasn't gone below 90, so 390 scores, a few around the 100, but then a few big 150s to really separate. So he would be an interesting pod, and he hasn't gotten injured this year. Usually the problem with Treloar is he gets injured, but that hasn't been the case, which has been pretty cool. Yeah, Dale we know has been doing well. May we know is doing well. Yeah, Meek's been doing really well. Very frustrating there. Zorko also 111. I think this week everyone's looking at bringing in Zorko, but look at this against mid forwards. I mean, technically he plays defense, so it doesn't really matter. But 45 break even. If he doesn't get injured, he's got Richmond, he's got Hawthorn. He could easily go massive in these games. I think, though, the thing with Zorks is everyone's picking him up. So I'm going to look at top 10%, like we normally do in the Supercoach hub. And then we usually jump down the rank change. Yeah, 17% have already brought him in. That's not that much, but a lot are getting on Zorko. And then we have the rookies to consider between Sullivan and Rivel. Sullivan, once again, was very good, but we do have DeGoey coming back. We have Mitchell coming back. I don't know if McQuarrie's coming back this week. I think he might because he took the head knock, so I think it's just concussion protocol. So we have 3 players that come back, but we did have 3 get injured in Bytel, Harrison, and Howes. So 3 out, 3 back in. Not really same position. I mean, Howes was playing forward, so maybe McQuarrie just takes that forward position. And then Bytel and Harrison are usually mid slash... I mean, Harrison can be that sort of forward, high half forward as well, but they could come in for them, and Sullivan maybe could survive, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up as a sub as well. Look, he's been really good, which is so hard. We also had Richards, who was really good as just like the first gamer, kicked a good goal, had opportunities to kick 2 early, and then finished off with a 3rd. So it's hard to pick Sullivan, as I just don't know his longevity in the team. I don't know if it's going to be a couple of weeks, this week, 5 weeks, I couldn't tell you. And Reville, very low tog, good roll, feels like he's playing off the halfback, it's very nice, but it is one of those things where playing 60% tog means all he needs is one of these games where he just doesn't get involved as much with the 60% tog, and he puts out a 20 to 30, and it just ends up being a dead pick. But so could Sullivan, and that's what makes the rookies kind of scary this week, is that they could be dead picks very easily. And that's why I think people are looking at Fisher and these other like sort of mid-price guys instead. People bringing in Reed, expecting him to come back in. That's funny. I like that. So my trades, I think I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to use my Supercoach Plus, look at these break-evens. If I look at the break-evens of my rookies, we've got 3, 12, minus 16, 31, minus 8, minus 2, 36, 134. Now I'm going to keep Reed, as I said, so the next highest break-evens are the 30 from Closey and Combin and the 36 from Darcy. And they're not even high break-evens. Like, their break-evens I would be happy to be keeping. But I've got to improve the team. I should be improving the team. So I do think, unfortunately, Combin just actually goes. Unfortunately. And I do kind of think Sam Darcy as well. I mean, who do they have this week again? They have GWS, who has some decent defenders. He does have this 19 cycle, sorry, 113, this 40. The thing is, this 47's about to roll out. If he can pick up like a 70 or something, he's going to make some more money. But how much money? Oh, let's look at these projections. So 79, 70, could make 40 more K. I think those are a little bit high end though, considering these are two teams with with good defenders. I think they could definitely restrict him lower than a 70. But milking 40K to not upgrade doesn't sound good. I think Closey is not even that much cheaper, so he kind of falls into the same category. But it is Geelong this week. Then Carlton. It's expecting him to score more. But he's in a similar boat. I think a little bit more money on his head. And then I'm not even looking at Combat at this point because, I mean, I have to trade somebody. Yeah, even if Combin's coming in with 68. Yeah, maybe we can milk 40K out of him, but honestly, 68's on his higher scoring end. Like, since he's been in our team, he's only gone over that once. So, wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get there. But yeah, I mean, it makes it very hard in this forward line because it's one of those things where everyone... This is why nobody's upgrading their forward line and they're upgrading other roles, because when you're getting Darcy and Combin scoring like this, it's like, geez, who needs to upgrade the forward line? But we've got to make upgrades. We've got to improve this team. So yeah, I do think I'm going to go Darcy, unfortunately. And I'm going to go Combin. We still got an extra 20K out of Combin, so it's fine. I think I want to take the risk on Zorko. And then we can switch Wilson down. We can play the break-even game. And at this time, I'm just going to move Sullivan in. So this is sort of how it's looking. Now, the scary thing here is if Graham doesn't get named, though, I might be fielding Sullivan at this point, which I don't really like the sound of. Like, I gotta be honest, I don't like the sound of that at all. We have Clark, who we can use as a loophole if Libba doesn't get up. So if Libba gets up, no problem. We've got a completed midfield. Boom, he goes in, easy. Libba doesn't get up. We have him as a loophole because he plays after our rookies. So we can, if Graham gets named, we're going to loophole Graham. If Graham doesn't get named, we can loophole Clark. And then if he performs poorly, we can take a punt on Sullivan. Which doesn't feel great. Now, Wilson's obviously been performing pretty well on the forward line, so I kind of want to get Wilson on field. And Sexton has a good role, so if he gets named again, good role, awesome, easy enough. He doesn't get named, I can't really loophole these guys. I've got to just sort of take a punt on one of them. And I'm not too sure who I'd go for. Maybe Jones. Maybe Jones. So, at least that's how the team's looking. In regards to rookies, I mean, we've got Closey, 2 in the forward line, and Sweet. So we've got 4 rookies to move on. We have 18 premiums we could, or 18 keepers in this team currently, which is really nice in that sense. Especially with Sweet being a bit more of an elevated rookie. Like, he's been very good. I think he's much better than, these guys, Jones, Darcy, Clark, Sullivan. And Closey's definitely been a bit more elevated too, and Wilson's been very good as well. So I'm not too upset with these rookies on field, and I feel pretty good about this team. So yeah, I think it's starting to finally come together. As I mentioned, Libba's probably out. I would think he's at least out this week as well. And then if he ends up being out even longer than that, Now, the other thing is, as I said, I can sort of just hold Libba, trade and upgrade around him, still improve the team, and then if he comes back, awesome, he just ends up as like an uber pod for us. I don't know if it's any good. Richards obviously scored very well this week with 93% CBAs because Libra was out. Not someone I'm going to get on. Feels like a bit of an outlier against Richmond. But what we will do here is we will just look at the captains. So I think there's some very, very obvious ones to start this off with. Number one, Tim English is playing into GWS Briggs, the ruckman that gives up the most Supercoach points to opposition ruckman. So, I mean, that screams right there that, hey, English could go massive. Option 2, Luke Ryan into St Kilda. St Kilda give up the most points to opposition defenders. So Luke Ryan could tear them a new one. And that's the only problem with English playing before him, is I don't even know if I want to take that English risk, because Ryan could just go 200. But I do think English could be at least 135 plus. But then that baits me into maybe a worse VC score. And then I think Gorn into West Coast. West Coast also a team that give up insane points to ruckman. This is when I wanted Gorn in my team, because I wanted him for this West Coast run, because he plays them again not much longer. And that's what's tempting to bring Gorn in this week, is he might have a 178 break even, but he might meet that against West Coast. It's very scary. So I do think if you do go Luke Ryan, you could easily fall onto a Clayton Oliver with no yo, a Petrarca with once again no yo, a Gorn as a very safe C option. Not too safe with, in my opinion, Butters, because Finn could tag him. But if you did have a Merit into North, could easily fall onto that, and that's what makes the Ryan VC very nice. Now, we don't really have any of those options except for Butters, who I think could potentially get attention, and one I'm actually a little bit more scared of doing, so one I'm not going to do. So then I have to look at someone before that. Now, we did just mention, obviously, Dunkley and Zorko going into Richmond, other options that are available. So we have some really good options here. Also, Gold Coast into Geelong. Geelong giving up a lot of points to contested balls inside, so Rao could be massive. But yeah, I think my favorite is English, Ryan, Gorn, and I think I'll be going English into Ryan. Oops, whoopsie daisy. Alright guys, well that's it from me. I really appreciate all those that stayed until the end of the video. Like and subscribe for your consistent injections of Supercoach content directly into your YouTube feed. And you can always find me on X at Verns_SC_Hub. It will be in the description below. And you will also see me on the Supercoach Hub tomorrow night. So you can join our Discord, which will be in the description below there as well. But until next time, guys, I appreciate y'all. Peace. Later.